Today we're going to start with making a wonderful fruit syrup to go over my mother's homemade custard, one of my favorite recipes from home. So to do it, of course, you have to have some fresh fruits. And remember, when we were at Russo's, we saw all of those beautiful apricots, the white peaches, which are one of my favorites, the nectarines, and all of the plums. And you want to get fruits that are not super ripe for making a syrup, because when you bring them home, you're going to be cooking them in sugar and, in this case, wine. So you want the fruits to be able to hold their shape. So make sure that you buy fruits that are not fully ripe. So here we just have a nice ripe peach. And I just want to cut these slices up. And you can use a variety of fruits for this. If you didn't want to use peaches, you could use just nectarines. You could use cherries in this, plums, as I say. But I like the combination of peaches and nectarines and fresh apricots. So here is a wonderful looking ripe fresh apricot. I just want to cut that and twist that and get that cut into pieces now. And I'm going to use a dry white wine for this. So once you have all of your fruits, this goes together very quickly, and you really want to make the fruit syrup ahead of time, because the custard is the second part of this recipe, and you want to have this ready when the custard is ready to go. So in a saucepan, we want to add 3/4 of a cup of a white wine, a dry white wine. And now we're going to turn the flame on this to about medium high. And we want to dissolve some sugar in here. So you want an equal amount of sugar, so 3/4 of a cup of sugar goes in. And dissolve the sugar, and you want to cook this, just for about 2 minutes or so. You'll know when it's ready because it'll start to look a little gelatinous and all of the sugar will be dissolved. So before I put the fruit in, I want that sugar to be totally dissolved. So we're going to have to wait a minute or so for that to happen. And while we're waiting, let me talk to you about the custard part of this, because this is really, as I say, a very easy dessert to do. And if you want to do this for company, it's going to look like you've been in the kitchen all day, but really you haven't spent time there at all. And to do this, you want to start out with some ramekins. These are 1/2 cup ramekins. These go in the oven because we need to cook the custard in a water bath. And the reason we do that is to allow the custard to cook evenly, so we have a constant even temperature, and this is going to guarantee us a wonderful texture for the custard. So you want to butter the ramekins first, and for this recipe you need 6. And then in a saucepan you want to add 2 cups of milk. And for this, you could even use low fat. If you didn't want to use whole milk, you could use low fat. And then you want to heat the milk up. We're going to bring this to just under the boil. And with it, we need a cup of non-fat 50/50. So you don't have to feel guilty about this recipe. And then a 1/2 cup of sugar goes in. And again, we want to dissolve that sugar in the milk. You want to watch that, though, because you don't want to scorch it. And let's give that a pinch of salt. So about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt goes in. And then, of course, we need eggs for this. You want 4 large eggs. Let me see where we are here on syrup. Okay, now we have dissolved sugar in our wine, and we can add the fruits. So the fruits go in. Remember, this is going to be the topping for the custard. So all the fruits go in. And you want this to cook gently, just for a couple minutes. You just really want to soften that fruit, because after you do this, this is going to go in the refrigerator. So we're just going to let this cook gently over low heat now for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to lower the heat on that. And it's smelling beautiful already. Okay, now back to our custard. I have my milk mixture in there with the sugar, and we need to flavor that a little bit. This always reminds me of home, vanilla bean. So we want about a 2-inch piece of vanilla bean. And vanilla beans are very expensive. You buy them in the grocery store in the baking section, and they come like this, and I don't know if you realize that this is really part of the orchid plant. Smells wonderful, and you put it in whole, right in with the milk. So we let this cook now just until we begin to see bubbles at the very edge. So now we want to just whisk up 4 large eggs. And then we have to do something called tempering the eggs. We can't just pour the eggs directly into this, otherwise we'll curdle the eggs, and we won't have that nice texture that we want. So let me turn that off. And we want to pour just a little bit of this mixture into those eggs and mix that around before we add the rest of the milk mixture. Okay, so now we have our custard mixture, and here's the au bain marie, or the bagno maria, as it's called in Italian. You want to have a bake pan that these ramekins will fit in, and then you have hot water coming up, at least a ½ inch up the sides. As I say, this is going to help keep this at an even temperature. Put these in the bagno maria first, and then if you have that pourable spout measure, you see how easy it is to fill the ramekins. Your oven is now on at 350 degrees because you need to bake these for about 35 minutes, or until a knife inserted in the center comes out clean. So fill them to the top, and then we put them in the oven, and you can forget it. And if you have a little extra left over, well, then just get another cup and fill it and put it in the oven along with everything else. So I have a little bit more left over here than I anticipated, but that's okay. Fill those right to the top. If you wanted to, you could put a little bit of nutmeg on this as well. Okay, now these go into the bottom oven. So my oven is on. Put them in. 35 minutes later, those are going to be cooked. So here is my cooked fruit. Look at how beautiful that looks. Look at how pretty this is. And to unmold the fruit, the custard rather, you say 3 Hail Marys. Go around the outside with a butter knife, gingerly, because you want this to come out. You know what? If it isn't exactly perfect, I wouldn't worry about it. But that one is. There you go. So we're going to get that right in the center. And then you take some of this beautiful fruit, you put it over and around the custard. This reminds me of home so much. And with it, I like to have some fresh cherries, like that. And how about a nice mint sprig right there? I'll just wipe up the plate a little bit so it looks beautiful. So, there you have it. Gorgeous things to do with frutta fresca.